Welcome to this webinar on task lists. Thank you for your interest and for being here. My name is Rui. I'm the Technical Director at PF Consultants. We're the developers of CMMS. We are going to talk about task lists in CMMS, what they are, how to create them, and how to use them on day-to-day tasks, and what information they can provide. So we'll start by a definition. First, let's go on to the task lists module, which is this. And a definition of task lists in everywhere, I suppose, but also in CMMS, is that task lists are sequences of technical steps required to perform a maintenance action. So we'll look at this one, for example, just an example of a task list so that we can see what a task list template looks like in CMMS. We start by having a general information area where you can define, you'll see how to do all this in a second, but where you can define the task list name and the description. These are important because the task list name and the description are the fields that are going to be searched for when you need to make use of a task list elsewhere in CMMS, and namely in work orders. Then you've got assignments, so task lists belong to a plant and department. Usually that would be your own as a technician, or a manager, that would be your own, but they can be different. And you've got a summary of what that task list means in terms of, as you can see, man hours, job duration, a total job duration, and the number of tasks involved in the performance of that, or to perform that that task list. So in this case, as you can see here down at the bottom, we have 2 steps for whatever job, example job this is. We can, for each step, define the trade. We call it task type, but as you can see, electrical and mechanical are job like trades. Man hours and the number of people that are supposed to be doing this. So as you can see here, if this takes 0.3 man hours done by one person, then the total job duration for this step is 0.3 hours. So we first of all need to consider something. So when we're doing task lists in CMMS, there are 2 items that are of interest, or not of interest, that are required to exist before you can start to do your task list templates. The first is task types. These are not built into CMMS. You need to define them for your plant. And the other, which is not on this list here, is the pay rates. So we'll look at that now. There will be some how can I say, some defaults put in CMMS, but anyway, you should go in and do the following. So first, let's go and look at task types. You go to modules configuration, then to task lists, and in here you can see that you can add new task types, or you can add existing task types. So again, let me say that these are trades. You can see a hint up here that says task types allow you to organize tasks per work type for later analysis. So you'll be able to see how much time and money you're spending on mechanical work versus electrical work. Information of this sort. So typically work types include mechanical, electric, and, or hydraulics. In this account, I have set up the system to have a mechanical work type, an electrical work type, and then an others. Perhaps this is for your subcontractors, depending on the use case. So we'll create another one here that might be what are we missing? So we got mechanical, electrical, let's say hydraulic, whatever, just as an example. Hydraulic, so that's your name for the trade and for all hydraulic jobs, something like this. So you'll just leave this as it is and you add hydraulic. So once you do that, now hydraulic becomes an option on your trades list. The other thing I mentioned is pay rates. So for each step of a task list, you can add, because you have the time, and if you know the time per hour of each person, you then can obviously infer the total amount of money that you've spent to do a certain job. And at the end of the month, of the year, you can also get the amount that was spent per person or per type. So it's important to set up pay rates. So to do that, you go to users. So this is a property that depends on a user, and you go to active user. It only makes sense to set this up for users. So first of all, actually, you need to set the type of pay rates that you have. You may have the normal rate, the overtime one for work at night, and overtime 2 for work on special holidays. So that's, you come here to organization plant department, and then you have plant hourly rates. This is not the amount, this is just the type of thing, the type of rate. So for example, on this organization, I have it set up so that you have 3 levels. You have the normal, the overtime 1, and overtime 2. You may have a rate that you pay to your subcontractors again, which you would define in here by adding a new hourly rate on this field here. So once you have that set up, you go to users, and mind you, this might sound a little bit complicated and convoluted, but really this is done only once when you set up the system. So you probably won't have to go and do all these steps ever again, probably, or you know, like seldom you'll have to do this. So as I was saying, you go, before I jumped to the rate types, you can come here and say, for example, for me, I have then the normal, the OT1, and the OT2, which are the rates for this plant, as you have seen, for a default that is for me. So for each user, you need to set this up. Let's say Maradona, how does it have? Okay, so these are his rates for these rate types or rate you know, standards that this plant has. So once you've got all of this set up, we can now go to the task lists and start one, or create a task list template. Now the template is what is called and linked to work orders all the time that you need a task list. So let's do that. So you go to task lists, to the task lists module, and appropriately start or add a task list by clicking the plus task list button. We'll leave the assignment options as default, as most people will do that. And then on general information, we can do, you know, like we can start to fill in our information for the task list. Remember, this is searchable, so make it meaningful so that people can search and find that. So my example here is that we're going to do a task list for the replacement of water filters, with a description that says water filters replacement for machine of type A, for example. So then we just add it, or add it. And okay, we're ready. We're on the edit section of a task list. So we've got the title in here. That's all that we filled in before. So all that is here at the top, we've just done. When you come to edit a task list that has already been created, this is what you see, perhaps with items on this list already. This one is brand new, so it has no items on the list. That's what we're going to do now. So first thing that I will add here is that we need to perform the lockout tagout procedure with operations and maintenance. So because this might be combined, we'll just say that this is a we'll just say, I don't know, this is a mechanical, it's an others job. We have it takes 1 hour, and it takes 2 people to do, two technicians to do this. So as you add items on this list, they start to show up, or you add items on this form, and press the plus button, they start to add, or to be added to the list top to bottom. So the next one is open filter cover by unscrewing, and I use this one as an example how long the description might be. So this one's quite long. And we will do, this is a mechanical job and is half an hour done by 1 person. So I will speed up the add-on of items to this list, and I'll get you after that. Okay, so we have finished this. You don't need to press any save every time that you put an item on the list. It gets automatically saved. So if we go back to the Search console, we'll see that now at the top of the list we have the task list template that we have just created. And just to show you how we can edit, for example, add another line to the task list, we would press this, or we would click here on edit. Then you see the task list that you've just created in edit mode, and we can, for example, add an extra step in here, and this is for, I don't know, like an electrical job that takes 1 hour and is supposed to go to one person. And oh, by the way, let me just say also that the TJD item here is for, as you can see there, total job duration. So it will tell you the total estimated time that the sequence of steps take to perform this maintenance task. So then once you do this, the extra step or any other thing that you have on the list, you can take up, you can bring down. So if you have something that you need to add that is to go between these two steps here, then you just create it like I did with this extra step line, and then you just push it up to the position you want it to be at, like in this case. So now that we have created a task list template, you can use this task list in several ways. So let's do that, or a couple of ways. Let's do that now on work orders. And what we'll do now is we will import this task list as manually onto an existing work order. So for example, if something comes up that says, okay, we've got a clogged filter or something, and this is not a scheduled or expected or preventive maintenance action, is an abnormally or is an abnormal condition that may be solved, or the technician or the manager thinks that it can be solved by the replacement of the filters, you can import a task list for that job because that's what you recommend to do. So we just choose one work order at random, and we've got this work order here. So you see that on the tabs of items linked or related to a work order, you have a tab for tasks. So if you click on there, in this particular case, you have no tasks right now, but you can click here, and now you are given the option to either manually add task steps to this work order that are not part of a task list template, or you can import a task list template. Remember that what we had before was something that said replace H2O filters, so that's something that I know it's key for me to search for, and I just wrote H2O disregarding capital letters, and task list number 11, which is the one I've just created, shows up on this list. So we'll select that. It gets entered into this field, and then we click on add, and the task list table will be populated by the items that you put onto that task list. Now there's one thing of note here. If you have a task list that you have assigned to 2 or more people, what is going to happen is, because that for sure is not for the same person, or probably is not for the same person, you'll have a couple of people doing that, the line will be split into the number into lines that equal the number of people assigned to them. So for example, for Lotto procedure, we have assigned that to 2 technicians, so there's 2 lines for that. One is for one technician, the other line is for the other technician, obviously. So what you can do with this now is, for each line you can set what user has done that and what is the rate that that line cost, or at what rate that line was done by this user. That's why you have to define the rates. You have to define also the values per person. So I'm going to fill this up with a multitude of information. Now we are doing actually an improvement on this area, so that you don't need to do what I'm going to do now, which is a bit tedious, because you need to go and fill in one by one all of these fields, which is far from being efficient. So we're doing an improvement on this where we're going to make this a lot easier to deal with. A few things of note is for example, if you only have one person doing this job, you can eliminate this line, so you have only this line to take into account. And we are missing also some way to change. So this is the estimate time, but if you want to put in the actual time, you would have to remove this line and add another line here with a corrective, with a correct time that it took to do that step. So again, this is not very efficient. It works, you get the information that you need, and it's fine, but it's not in line with what we would to achieve, which is efficiency and like the least amount of time filling up forms to get the most out of information in Common CMMS. So you have to do that for each user that you have doing this job. So you can do this kind of thing, and now we're going to fill in, let's just say most of it is normal, and I'll just select one or two that I will put in as OT1, for example, for this job, and OT2 for this job, and this one is normal as well. So once you've done all of this, you've set it all up, and that's it. You need only go, let's just do this. We'll just do one more thing, and we'll say that this takes an hour and it's an electrical job, and the user that is going to do this is myself, and at a rate of at a normal rate. So then we add it over here, and you see that it gets added onto this line. Because you already filled up all the things, it doesn't have a drop-down box like the ones above, and it's already set. You can hover over here and see that it's a normal rate that has been selected for this step for this user. So once you've got all of that, remember to save the work order. So once you do that, it gets saved, and let's just go back and see what it looks like after you've done that. Now the tabs, the tasks tab shows 9 tasks on it, and as you can see, everything that we filled in is now saved on and linked to this work order. Again, if you want to see what rate is assigned to this job, and I know that I put in a OT1 and OT2 down here, then you just hover over the clock over here on the right, and you get all that information. So let's see other things. Okay, so what I've just showed you now, I said in the beginning, is a manual link of a task list to a work order. But one thing that is quite powerful as well is when you can actually automatically pull in a task list for a preventive maintenance, or in some cases scheduled work order. So to do that, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you basically, if you already have the maintenance plan that contains a work order or a source work order assigned to it, what you do, say for example you've done all the steps and you forgot to link the task lists to a source work order on a maintenance plan, you just come to the maintenance plan, you select it. I'll just select this one as an example. You go to edit mode, and in here you'll see that you can now view and in fact edit the source work order. So you go in there. The source work order is the work order that gets copied as a template for each regular order that comes out on the system. And in here you just follow the exact same procedure that we followed before. So we can do this and add the job here, and whatever you put in here will come out on the template. So for example, if you've got a technician that usually does this job, why not just fill this in with that technician or group of technicians, and later if you have to do some adjustment because for that particular week that user was on holidays, then you can just change what is abnormal, and you don't have to change everything that is normal, if you know what I mean. So you get less work. So this would come out, Rui is on holidays. You then just change on the work order that comes out for that maintenance plan who actually did that job on that week, because usually it's Rui, so usually that will be already filled in. So once you do this and you save it, the next work order that comes out of this maintenance plan will include this task list. and that's it. It will just come out regularly with the updated latest template for that task list. So that's important to say, that if you go and edit the template of the task list that you're linking and importing to a work order today, if you do that change today, next work order will reflect the changes that you made today as well. So all of this is because you want to get reporting that makes sense, that is meaningful. And on task lists, as I mentioned in the beginning, that actually means that you get to know how much time and money you're spending basically by trade and by person. So you can go, and I'll just give you an example of what come out, or what can come out of this. The reports and charts that are related to information that come out of task lists are this one under work order general, hours, users, and rates. This one, hours and job types. And then on work order costs, labor cost analysis, and overall maintenance costs. So we're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4 reports or charts or analysis this month. So we'll do that and look at what comes out. Okay, so what we have here, okay, it takes some time to load the graphs. Okay, what we have here is each of that report, of those charts, fields, sections that I've chose before: maintenance costs, hours, users, and rates, labor cost analysis, hours and job types. All of these reports come out and are meaningful in one way. So for example, you'll see for the time that we chose, so that's, what did I choose? Like current month, yeah, from the 1st of December to the 31st of December, all items that are on this list refer to that time frame. And in this case here on my database, we have 11 work orders, so we're analyzing 11. You'll have perhaps 1,000. So you can get the total labor costs. That's what this means in here. And I've done some tests. It's not only the work order with the task list that I showed you before that results in this. There's other work orders on these 11, and there will be in the thousands of work orders that you have. You will see a different number in here. So that gets the total maintenance costs for that time period. And in my case, I have no spares costs. I did not fill that in, or other costs that may be costs that are, extra costs for a job, or subcontractor costs, something like that. This all come in play in work orders, and they'll be the subject of other webinars and tutorials that we'll post on YouTube. So just keep an eye on that. Anyway, for what we are talking about here, that's like we spent $434 in maintenance costs for labor for this period of the 1st of December to the 31st of December. Now, on this next level, we've got hours, users, and rates. So what we're looking at is the analysis per rate of what's going on. So as a normal, as an example, and there is a little bit of a glitch on my system here, because what should be reading on here is not actually it is. It's the rates. So okay, for the normal rate, the total from each user that was paid their normal rate, that's at 12 hours and 57 12 hours 57. So then for overtime you got 3 hours 15, and for overtime 2 you got 2 hours, around 2 hours total. And this is the distribution per user of that pay. So you can see that all of the users got paid more normal hours. That's great. And then you had to pay overtime 1 to this guy, that's the amount of hours, and for this other guy, you're paying OT2. So this is where you can see that, okay, I'm doing many jobs overnight, and I need to optimize this because I'm spending too much time paying people double overtime for this special job. Maybe we can optimize things a little bit. Then for the labor cost analysis, so this is cost. While this is time, this is cost. So we can see that for the normal rate, we spent a total of $198. For the overtime one, for the time frame that we're looking at, we spent $130. So you can see so like this makes it's good in a way, this graph, because most of the pay is normal, and only a little bit, perhaps OT1 is already a little bit higher. It depends on what your standards are and how you manage your maintenance. And then this is the same information per user. So we can perhaps, as an example, looking at analyzing this data, we can see that Maradona here is, is being, we already knew that from up here in hours, but now we know that we're actually spending quite a bit of money with Maradona on overtime rate 2 here. So we perhaps need to do some adjustments, and this is important because maybe the like this guy here is cheaper on overtime type 2 than Maradona, so you can assign jobs to him more than, like this type of analysis that you can perform. Also, you can get a breakdown for hours spent by, I call it expertise in here, or we call it expertise, but it's trade. So you can see a distribution. You see, like I've created hydraulic, but I did not assign any work to the hydraulic trade, so there's nothing here. And because I've just created, there were no work orders that had anything for hydraulic, so we have 0 hours for hydraulic, but we have, for example, 6.25 hours for mechanical works. So this concludes this webinar/tutorial. If you have any questions, you can always get back to us. You can attend our webinars, which we do one of every month. This is the task lists webinar that or this is the contents of the webinar that we did on the 12th of December 2023. We are constantly doing this type of material, this type of content, so keep checking back, and I hope this was useful for you, and we'll keep going. See you next time. Thank you very much.